Okay, so we're wrapping up Siman Reish Nun. Now we're going to be going through Rav Harfinish's Chuvas. Rabbi Yisrael Harfinish, Choshev a Talmud Chacham, a Satmar Dayan, and a Choshev a Poisik, and a Machaber Svarim who resides in Williamsburg. And his Svarim are excellent. So we're going to be learning through his Svarim, and we're going to see all the Chedushim that he adds, even though we had already 11 sessions on this Siman Reish Nun, 2 pages in the Mishnah Berurah. And you think, how many other Chedushim could we have? Well, we're going to see going through his farm exactly. This, I basically went through, I think he has around 30 pages on this Siman. I went through it already ahead, and I just highlighted. We're just going to go through what I thought were the very applicable points. Halacha l'maisa that will go, that should be spoken at. I spent hours going through this, and I went through it slowly, properly. So basically, a person should stop learning in order to prepare for Shabbos. That's the idea from this first tshuva that comes out.
What if you're learning Hilchos Shabbos?
But if you're learning Hilchos Shabbos, yeah, so you should stop learning to be involved with the halachas, right? It says in the Yerushalmi Masechah Shabbos, if a person's just going to learn Torah but not apply it, Noach lo shelo nivra, better that he wasn't created. So keep that in mind over there. So that's the point from this tshuva. Now he says over here like this. He says, Nira biur devadav mitzvah yosim b'shlucho ena mitzvah atzmi elohu yitroin b'kiyum ha-mitzvah hahu. Alkim ba'alma yitroin zoina doichis as mitzvah Talmud Torah kisha efshar. That's a typo. There should be a shin there. L'kaim al yidei achim mashinki mitzvah chana shabshu mitzvah atzmi shezeh marba kovat Shabbos kodesh. It's going into the Shulchan Aruch Harav a little bit more. The point is that he's basically explaining within the sheet of the Shulchan Aruch Harav, who says that we don't say that you could appoint a shliach to perform the preparations of Shabbos. We don't say that. The question is, why not? So the Shulchan Aruch Harav said that because this is in honor of Shabbos, kavod Shabbos, and therefore you have to do it with your own body. We saw the Oz V'Hadir Mishnah Berurah explain this is similar to the mitzvah of chillin, the mitzvah of sukkah, that you yourself have to do, eating matzah, etc., which is a chiddush itself, because we saw the second parak Kedushin, that the proof was brought Shulchan Shaldim Kemoso, from Rav and Rav Safra, who were involved with the Chana Shabbos. So that's already a difficult question to properly answer. But nevertheless, he says over here that no, that over here the preparations of Shabbos are a mitzvah, and you are increasing the honor of Shabbos, and therefore you yourself have to do it. All right. So now in this next section over here, he says an important point. He says it's clear from Hilchos Pesach in Siman Tov Samech Siv Beis that the Rosh, he himself would try to be involved with making the matzahs. And it says over there, we're talking about over there in Hilchos Pesach, this is in the Shulchan Aruch itself. It says over there, if you look at that siman, that it's fitting for everyone. It's fitting for everyone to be involved personally with making matzah. And on that, the Magen Avraham comments, why mitzvah bo yosim b'shlucho? Even though you could have a messenger perform the mitzvah, nevertheless, it's better for you yourself to do the mitzvah. Mitzvah bo yosim b'shlucho. Even though after bavadesh Rabbeinu Harash hayatarud v'asuk b'limudam, even though for sure the Rosh is a serious tiger, he was learning all day. Also, the Maharil and others, they were involved themselves with building the sukkah. So even though they were serious shigers and they were learning all the time, nevertheless they stopped learning in order to be involved with the baking of the matzahs, with the building of the sukkah. Similarly, the Sefer Emek Shiloh, if I'm not mistaken, that's the Nesiv building sukkah. We say mitzvah bo yus meshubos in building the sukkah is a mitzvah. In other words, we still say that a person should stop, and it's better to do the mitzvah yourself rather than learn, which is interesting because lamais it's a mitzvah she'efshar la'asos al yidei acherim. So if it's efshar la'asos al yidei acherim, the question is, why would they stop? Why would they stop learning just to perform the mitzvah themselves? All right, let's see if he addresses that. V'chein shaylos tshuvas shem aryeh. He writes, Talmud Chacham ein tzarich lichtabatzim sefer Torah misad mitzvah yishnu shucha. Talmud Chacham doesn't need to write a sefer Torah, even though it's better for him to write the Sefer Torah rather than have a shliach write on his behalf. Why? Because the mitzvah of ksiva Sefer Torah sricha meshech zman aruch takes a long time to write a Sefer Torah. It's going to be bittul Torah. In other words, the Shiloh Juva Shem Arya, I'm not sure exactly who he is, but He's quoted over here saying there's a difference between something which will just take a small amount of time, in which case the Talmud Chacham could stop learning in order to be involved with the mitzvah, versus something that will take a long amount of time, such as writing a Sefer Torah, which in that case the Talmud Chacham shouldn't stop learning. Because you could have a sofer, he's your shliach. Someone else could write the Sefer Torah on your behalf. We clearly see so we see that this is actually a very fascinating point. Even when we say shlucho shaldim kamoiso, and it's a mitzvah shashal lasos yadei acherim, nevertheless, it is the mitzvah bo yosim b'shlucho aspect could still be applied by Talmud Chacham who's learning. That what? That if it takes a small amount of time, you can stop learning in order to be involved with that mitzvah. However, if it takes a long amount of time, then that wouldn't be so. Interesting point over there.
How do you consider something a long period of time?
Well, writing a Sefer Torah takes a long time. It takes hundreds and hundreds of hours, as opposed to just merely baking matzah, as opposed to putting up a sukkah, as opposed to, what was the other example he said? As opposed to writing a mezuzah or a
And putting up a
So-
sukkah can take a while, but I guess not that long.
no, it's not going to take hundreds of hours to put on a sukkah.
I wonder how long it takes to learn about Mila.
To learn about Mila?
To be trained from properly.
That's
in
Torah
Mila.
anyways, so that you should do.
Mila?
Yeah. I think it says there's a Gemara somewhere that a Talmud
So
Chacham should know how to do a few things. I think one of them might be Mila, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, probably a shochet and a shech,
That's right.
shochet. But why? But how long? I wonder how long it takes to learn to shech the chicken or something.
Okay, that's learning, so that wouldn't be subject to bittul Torah. Anyways, that is Torah. The first sugyas in your day, all the first simanim in your day are all on shechita. You have a whole masechta, maseches chul, and that is Torah. Okay, next shiloh over here, he says.
Wait, so why isn't it? Why isn't it tone? Why don't we shecht our own chickens?
We have other people do it as a shliach.
But that
So is
doesn't
there a
take some.
pattern that he's setting out?
What pattern?
I'm saying, is there a pattern like which is better for you to do on your own, and which is better
Just
so
time wise, it's time,
shliach? It's a time issue.
right?
I mean, that's his main vort. If it's a time issue, then you definitely shouldn't do it yourself. If it's writing a Sefer Torah, you definitely shouldn't do it yourself. Seems like these other mitzvahs, there's a basis. The question becomes if these other mitzvahs, baking matzah, I know Hasidim, I think, are very into baking matzah, but the question is, like, when it comes to baking matzah, when it comes to putting up your sukkah, the real question becomes, if we do say that shulchan shaldim kimoso, so then why should you be mevatel Torah? Because someone else could do it. That's really the question. So I think the answer would be in this next tshuva. He says, you're right. You should do it yourself, but that's only one thing. He says, for example, putting a dish on a fire. In other words, it could very well be that when it comes to building a sukkah, fine, you hire someone to build it, or you have someone else who's going to build it on your behalf, whatever it is, fine, but you should still move the schach around to get something done. But it could very well be that, right, like he begins by quoting the Rambam. Before the Rambam, he says, no, maybe you should only do one thing. Maybe you should only do one thing. It will take 30 seconds, whatever it is. But then he quotes the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos, Perek Lamed, who says that no. Kol hamarbe b'dava harizeh meshubach, which means the more a person does in honor of Shabbos, the better it is, the more praiseworthy it is. So you see that the more the better. And then he quotes the Shulchan Aruch Harav, which we keep seeing because it's a very fundamental Shulchan Aruch Harav. And it could be that and the Shulchan Aruch Harav is answering why you don't appoint a shliach, why these rabbis didn't appoint a shliach, why they did it themselves. So the Shulchan Aruch Harav, which we saw already a few sessions ago, comes out that you're right. You only need to do one thing. You yourself should do it because it's a chovas haguf. However, just do one thing only. That's it. That's what he says. That would be recognizable that you're honoring Shabbos. Could be even a prohibition to do more. Something to think about. However, he says Pashut. Dim al yedei kain. Yechaser makavod Shabbos. Shapir sorechu levatel milimudo af b'shvil hachanos yiseros. It's obvious that if through this, now you're not going to be involved. What's he saying over here? Miu Pashut. Dim al yedei kain yechaser makavod Shabbos. Shapir sorechu levatel milimudo af b'shvil hachanos yiseros. Right. Very important point. When do we say only do one thing for Achana Shabbos? That's if someone else is going to get everything done. But if by you not doing more than one thing and helping out more, essential preparations of Shabbos will not be completed, so then a person needs to stop learning in order to be involved with the other preparations of Shabbos. The whole shiloh over here is if other people are going to be involved with the preparations of Shabbos. Then we say just be involved with one preparatory act of Shabbos. However, if they're not, then you have to do everything. Yesh layin, ibayinon, she'achad medavar echad anitzkel eli bo yishem imidi dachilo shel suda Shabbos. So when we're talking about over here, preparing for Shabbos, does it need to be something that is food related? Just remember, where there's Jews, there's food. So the question is, does it need to be food related or not? Right? There's a lot of preparations that we've already been learning about: cutting the nails, going to the shower, setting the table, the hachanas of the neirus. The Hob, Meseches Kedusha Nizgal, Daf Melech, Mantin the Rav Safra, Machrich Reisha, Rav Malach Shibusa. We find in the Gemara in Kedusha Mamel, the Rav Safra, he was Machrich Reisha, and Rav, he was Malach Shibusa. In other words, they were involved with food-related activities. Ulakaimon, he wanted Mishulchan Aruch Rav Sheishishun Chashiv Sheisach B'chonas Machal Shem Esanig Mimenu Yoiser. Odilma Yuchel Esabik B'Shar Dvarim V'Afilu B'Davar Muach Kigol Mahachin Anir Shel Shabbos. Shulchan Aruch Harav says that it is halachically preferable to be involved specifically with the food-related preparations of Shabbos. And not only that, but he said something that you like. If you're not a fishy type of guy, don't stay away from the fish. Don't be involved with preparing the fish. If you like the meat, get involved with the meat. But if you're a vegetarian, you don't like the meat and you like the fish, get away from the meat, stick with the fish. Keep it fishy. That's what he's saying over here. So Shaila, if it's even permissible to be a vegetarian. Maisa, the answer short is, why are you vegetarian?
Is it permissible?
I just said it's a Shaila. Just like everything's a Shaila. So
Wow.
yeah.
Not everything's a Shiloh.
By the way, you know what?
Once everything is a
I did?
Shiloh.
By the way, you know what I did? I put up 2 videos. One of them is 18 minutes, one of them is 9 minutes, on halachas related to cars. I'm making a whole thing. I'm writing like a small kuntrus, every single halacha that you need to know about cars. Very interesting stuff if you want to check it out. It got a lot of views, a lot of feedback, a lot of positive. Everyone's very into it.
Wow, on YouTube or whatever?
Yeah, I put it up. It got a lot of people are watching.
Let me see it.
Yeah, so check it out if you're interested. But the point is that this would be a nice shir also. Is it mutter to be a vegetarian? These are interesting topics. And the answer in short is, if it's for reasons because animal rights and stuff, then no. But if you just don't like the taste, so then yes. Anyways, Odilma Yuchol Lehistapik B'Shar Dvarim. No, maybe you don't need the food. Maybe you could be involved with something else. For example, preparing the Neresh Shabbos. Because we know that anyways, the husband should be involved with preparing the Ner for the reasons that we quoted in the past, right? The main reason is, it says in the Mishnah Mesech Shabbos, women die 3 things during childbirth. So it says Nidachal and then Hadlakas Aner. Why doesn't it say Nidachal and there? What's the Hadlakas Aner? Zokter V'Kiva Eger. based on a Takune Zohar, because specifically the lighting of the Ner should be done through the woman of the house. However, the Hachana, the preparation, should be done through the man. So are we saying that no, you should be involved with food-related activities? You could do something else that you'll be doing anyways. We find in the Gemara in Shabbos, Kufi Yates, obviously that's our Gemara. Rapapa Gadol Pitilasa. Rapapa, he was involved with the wicks of Shabbos. Remember the Ben Ish Chai shot on that? He says a Chiddush. He says he was involved with the Ono with his wife. And anyways, Venira de Alkoponim, Sogi Shiyamid Es Hakadeiros Agabish. It's enough just to put the pots on the fire. Hagarafa Kotum, Beknisas HaShabbos, when Shabbos comes to Matzinu Sham, Rabbi Zera, Shayamotzis HaOr Be'aitzim. Rabbi Zera, he would light the ore with eitzim. V'nimsa Sha'asa Alkoponim is the Dover Kotan. So we see that he would do something, albeit very small. Nevertheless, he did something for Achana Shabbos, and it was food related. If one could get away with just only setting the Neiros and that's it, because it's not such a important, not important, but like chashivas. It doesn't have so much importance. Putting the Neiros and furthermore setting up the Neiros, and furthermore nowadays we have electricity, so the Shalom Bayis reason is not so simple that it still applies, at least according to Rashi, who says a Shalom Bayis that people don't trip because they won't be able to see, or that there's going to be feuds in the house. If that doesn't happen, the Miri has a different shot that it's the woman's mitzvah, so that's a different shot anyways. But anyways, only someone who's learning could only get away with this loophole of only being involved with one preparatory act for Shabbos. However, someone who isn't learning needs to certainly be involved with more preparatory acts for Shabbos than just one. Very important points. I mean, come on, this is amazing. So does he answer that, Shiloh, by the way? I don't think he answers that, Shiloh. He doesn't answer the Shiloh regarding if it has to be a food-related act or not. If you're only going to do one act. But it seems like he is leaning towards the side of not doing it, especially nowadays, even though that we find the Gemara Pashup Shad is that Rav Papa was involved with the Ner Shabbos. Nevertheless, nowadays, it's not so chashuv. So Sarich Ian, if it should be done. Sarich Ian, you have to look into it because we have the electricity over there. So if the one act is going to be just the Neiros, better not to. That's what it seems like he's leaning towards. All right, so a guy, let's say, living in a $50 million house in the Hamptons. He's got 6 butlers, 4 maids. He doesn't need to do squat for preparing for Shabbos. Says the Shulchan Aruch, get up, do at least something. Geshtadel should do something. Comes along the Yitzmach Moshe, ala Torah and the Haftorah and Parshas Ekev. Talk about pulling that out of a random hat. The Bishliach Sachar lo Yamrina and Gabe Mitzvah Bo Yosim and Bishlucha. We saw this in one of the footnotes of the Oz V'Hadar. I don't know if it was the Yismach Moshe. I think it was someone else. I wonder if I could pull up the document and say, I think I typed it up. What would be the keyword? Money? Money.
Yeah.
Yeah, money. No. Paid. Maybe paid is a better keyword. I think we saw that somewhere. Paid back by Shabbos. No. I thought I typed that thing up. Personal involvement. It's gotta be right over here.
Maybe looking at the word pay, not money.
Pay. Here. Right over here. More the Ha'olos argues that when someone pays someone to do something else, it is considered as if the employer did the task himself. Right there. So we saw that already. So this is a similar idea. Comes along the Yitzmach Moshe and says that when it comes to a shliach sachar, when there's money on the table that's being spent, So then the chiddush is we don't say, according to the Gismach Moshe Allah on the Haftorah, we don't say that it's better for you yourself to do the mitzvah than a messenger. It's considered as if you yourself did that. That's incredibly questionable. It says if you yourself burden yourself and were involved with your body. Especially if the person who is your messenger is a Yid, a Jew. Certainly it's considered that there is shlichus over there. He says, look at his tshuva sefer Vayivarech David, Siman Aleph. Achronim asks a question from the Shulchan Aruch over here, even that someone who has a lot of servants should strive to be involved with the preparations of Shabbos, at least with something. So what do we see? We see that even if you have a lot of servants who seemingly you are paying, nevertheless, you should still be involved with the preparations of Shabbos. So one answer could be Yeshleimer. Yismach Moshe medaber rak kishemishalim lahapoel b'miyuchod b'shil tirchazo. No. When the Yismach Moshe said that when you pay someone, it's as if you did it, and we don't say that it's better for you to do the mitzvah anymore because it's considered mamish that you're doing it. That's only talking about when you are paying him a specific amount of money to be involved with specific activities only exclusively for Shabbos, specifically at that time. Shaz you're showing that the mitzvah isn't low in your eyes and disgraceful. Match in Cain. Here's the key line for all of those 5 towns for Rockaway families with the housekeepers. Someone who has anyways, they have cleaning help every single day of the week. Right. If they're just cleaning everything anyways, so then that's a different story. Right? If we're coming along and we're saying that this person is being hired exclusively, specifically for Shabbos, if he's hired only for Shabbos, right? So then we're saying that no. Then that would be good. We're saying that would be good because that is making it evident that a person is involved with the preparations of Shabbos and is hiring that person specifically for the preparations of Shabbos. And therefore it wouldn't be considered as if the mitzvahs of the preparations of Shabbos are unimportant because you're hiring someone specifically for that. However, if it's like 99% of most housekeepers that they're there for several days and they're just being involved with just tidying up the house in general, then it would be a problem because it's not evident that something is being done in honor of Shabbos. Good? And that's what the Shulchan Aruch was referring to. Someone who has help, cleaning help, all week long. Therefore, it's not evident that it's being done in honor of Shabbos, and therefore, you should strive to do something for Shabbos. However, if someone's being hired specifically for Shabbos, could very well be that he doesn't need to do anything according to the Yismach Moshe because there's a payment involved, and therefore it's considered as if he burdened his body, so to say. Which I think still you should try to do 1 or 2 things. That's my personal opinion. Yeah, what was the question?
Saying why is that a nafkamina that you're because you're paying the person specifically to do that Shabbos malachat shows a chashivas to it? That's the rationale.
That's right. The main point to highlight right over here is this line. When you pay someone, it's ketircha de gufa, as if you yourself were burdened by it. Meaning, what is money? It's essentially a medium of exchange. It's saying instead of us bartering, so now there's going to be cash involved, and then you have more options what to do with your money. So if you yourself are being involved with the preparations of Shabbos, that means you can't be making money, you can't be doing something else. And when you're working, you're burdening your body, so to say, even if you're sitting at a computer all day, still, it's a burden on your body. It's something that you're doing, and you can't do
What happens if-
something else because you're involved with those activities that you're doing, work-related, that you made money for. So you essentially
happens
burdened yourself
not
on
your
your
money?
body, and therefore, when you pay someone, you already did the burdening on your body. And it's evident when you're hiring someone just for Shabbos that you're doing it in honor of Shabbos, as opposed to just stamazo, they're coming the whole week. However, the caveat is that I would say that still you should just try to do one or two things with your actual body. I would assume. I'm being a little machmir. Just to do something, it doesn't take that long, a minute, 2 minutes, just to do something that you yourself are involved. Especially if you have a guy who's a high net worth individual and mamish, everything is passive income lagamri, and therefore he doesn't really have a burden of his body because everything he's just making easily. The guy's just, money's just coming in. He doesn't even need to do anything based on a certain situation that he set up for himself. So then for sure he should burden himself. You got nothing to lose. You won't lose, especially if the guy's not learning. If he's learning, it's one thing. Maybe you come on to head to, but the whole thing takes a minute. Come on. The whole thing takes a minute. You know, just do something small. Next tshuva. Says over here, a very important tshuva, which hopefully will shed some light on a cryptic Aruch HaShulchan that we learned. The Aruch HaShulchan says, Hachana Shabbos? What are you talking about? Ishto kegufo. Your wife does everything. You don't need to do anything. So obviously that's a questionable Aruch HaShulchan. Ishto kegufo on Hachana Shabbos? Talk about the Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Yud Tes, the 5 to 10 Amoraim who were personally involved with the Chana Shabbos. What about those Amoraim? You think they didn't know Ishto Kegufo? And they must have not held that you say Ishto Kegufo. Shulchan Aruch I've already said it's a mitzvah, it's a chov on your guf, similar to tefillin, similar to sukkah. You have to do it your guf. So what is this? We have a machlokes or a shulchan, Shulchan Aruch. What's the hezber? What's the pshat in the Shulchan Aruch? What about the? Excuse me. What's the pshat in the Aruch Shulchan? Ishto Kegufo. What about the Gemara? Don't tell me that they wanted to do mitzvah yosem v'shulchan, because if you're going to say Ishto Kegufo, it's considered as if you did it. So he says over here like this. After he quotes this Aruch HaShulchan, he says he discusses this in his Shilos and Chuvas v'Yivarach David, first Chuva in the whole Sefer. Daf Lamed Ches. He said what? He says, Sarachiyim, the Hacha Kol Hani Tanaim V'Amoraim Lo Hay Lehem Nashim. You want to tell me all those Chashav rabbis in the Gemara, they didn't have wives? Of course they had wives. And still they were involved with the preparations of Shabbos. For sure, Shulchan Aruch talking about Yishtadl, you should strive to do something yourself. The Rambam, the Be'er Halach, it's Kein Chov, it's like an obligation. For sure they're talking about that you have wives. Still, you have to do it. V'zil Basar Taima de Mitzvah Bo, Yosem Mibishlucho, typo, what I write in this note. Typo, Sarach Loimar Mibishlucho. It should say Mibishlucho, it's typo over here. And you need to say, by the way, you have to say the reason why there's a lot of typos in this Sefer is because, you know, he has a lot of chuvas to write, limited time. He wants to get as much Torah in as possible. And there are typos, you know. But anyways, if you understand Pshat, the typo is not a big deal because you understand exactly what he's saying. It's really not a big deal. The content is the ikr. Anyways, you have to say that we're going to say over here, mitzvah osik gufa b'mitzvos mekabel schar. We have to say when you were physically involved with the mitzvah, with your own body, you get more reward. Rashi and Kedushin daf mem alef, who mitzvah shibagufa. That's called a mitzvah shibagufa, mitzvah with your body. Why did the Shulchan Aruch say, don't let the avodim, don't let your servants do all the preparations of Shabbos? Why didn't he say don't let your wife do all the preparations? That's only because back then it was very common.
What happened? What happened?
What happened? The wives, you could say back then, they weren't so involved necessarily with the preparations of Shabbos. They had a lot of servants back then. So he said, the Shulchan Aruch said the common case. Then he says like this, Yesh, aval yesh ladas, you got to know the following. The af ish nasuim machuyev, even someone married machuyev lasoiv es ishto. Should say la'azor, I think. Oh no, la'azor v'zishto be'achanas habayis, right? Even someone who has a wife, guy's a married person, he's obligated to help his wife in the preparations of Shabbos. Afilu shaloi b'erev Shabbos. Even if it's not Erev Shabbos, or even if you already did 1 or 2 acts and you already filled this obligation with preparing for Shabbos, mishum mitzvahs azov tazovimo. He wants to say a chiddush. He wants to say that there's a chiyuv d'oraisa, a Torah obligation, chiyuv d'oraisa legamri, to help your wife Erev Shabbos. Why? Because of the pasuk azov tazovimo. This isn't going to be worse than helping a donkey, someone unload a donkey that has a load on it, someone unpack groceries from a car, help your wife with those groceries in the freezing cold from the car. Chiyuv d'oraisa, helping someone out. Rav Avadia has a tshuva, there's a car pulled over at the side of a road, he's got a tire issue, you know how to fix the tire, pull over, help him out, even if he's not a yid. Regarding many mitzvahs, we hold that the halachas of unloading and loading apply to humans as well, not just donkeys. Mitzvahs, this is one of the 3 things that the world stands on. Chesed, Torah, avodah, gemilut chasadim. Umishum lav de lo tirba bo beparach. Also, you have the negative commandment of that it shouldn't be like crushing type of work over here. Who said it was so clear that the women are just obligated to prepare the house for Shabbos when it comes to non-food related preparations? For sure, baking, cooking, okay, setting the table, whatever, right? Cleaning the house. Who says? So therefore, the preparations of the house are on you, just like your wife. So therefore, that's what we see from here, to get serious with the preparations, and that if that definitely there would be an obligation to help if the work isn't going to be getting done. And if you see, even if you have a servant there, even if you have a housekeeper, whatever, sometimes the work there's just too much to do, especially families with a lot of kids. When you clean something up, so then half of what you just cleaned gets messed up in 10 minutes after. If they're cranky, they're not taken care of. So you got to just keep fixing what you already did. So that's definitely something to think about and to keep in mind. In terms of this Aruch HaShulchan, is he really answering up for the Aruch HaShulchan over here? I think he's just saying Sarachian. He's not really answering up the Aruch HaShulchan. He's just questioning the Aruch HaShulchan over here. Better to do it yourself. What are you talking about? And he doesn't like the Aruch HaShulchan. He's just arguing on it. I think the Aruch HaShulchan itself is a massive chiddush and is highly questionable. And I asked this question, if you go back, the first time when we learned this around 2 weeks ago, and when we learned that Aruch HaShulchan, I said Sarachin on the whole thing. So I'm happy that I'm not the only one that has a major halachic issue with the Aruch HaShulchan, that Rav Harfenis doesn't like it either. It's a very questionable idea. So anyways, okay, so Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we will be Mamshech. Everyone should have a wonderful day.
Sure.
Have a good day.
Yep.